place for all things related to variable frequency drives. If you're interested in how to make things turn, or manufacturing technology in general, then this is the place for you. When most people think about internships, they might imagine movie characters making coffee runs, filing papers, or just trying to survive the summer. But in real life, the best internship programs are something very different. They're real-world classrooms. They're talent pipelines. And in many cases, they're the first step in a long and successful career. At Yaskawa, our intern program isn't just about filling short-term roles. It's about investing in future engineers, marketers, technicians, and leaders. In fact, many of the people holding key positions in our company today once started here as interns. So in this episode, we're going behind the scenes of Yaskawa's intern program, how it works, who we hire, how we continuously improve it, and what students can do to stand out. Today, I'm joined by Nancy Flowers, who heads up the intern program. Thank you for joining us today, Nancy.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
How long have you been with Yaskawa, and how long have you been working with the internship program?
I've been with Yaskawa for 18 years now, and I've been working with the interns off and on for about 10 years, but more involved for the past 3.
Excellent. So diving into it, how would you define at a basic level what an internship program is and what its purpose is?
Sure. An internship purpose is to give students a real-life glimpse of what it's going to be, to work in their chosen career path. So they will be applying what they're learning in school and have a hands-on opportunity to work on that.
Great. And why would someone want to do that? What are the benefits for both the student and the employer?
For the student, the benefit is it's a trial, right? There's nothing to lose. They're going to learn at the end of the summer things that they had only seen before in textbooks. And then for the company, it's an opportunity for, one, to raise our brand awareness, but also to cultivate a candidate pipeline for future opportunities.
Very cool. I can speak from experience. I did not intern with Yaskawa, but I did with Kimberly-Clark. And I had actually learned to work with PLCs and VFDs, something that I hadn't really learned from a textbook.
Right.
I learned the theories and philosophies behind motor control and things like that. But it was really the internship that got me the hands-on experience and to what ended up being my career of choice. So it was a long time since I applied or looked for internships. How do students typically find them today?
Well, their main resource would be their university or their college and their career center. The other tool that they have is Handshake. And so Handshake is a website that a lot of colleges promote and they partner with along with employers. So employers are able to post positions on Handshake. We're able to sign up for career fairs on Handshake, as well as our own career site. So Handshake is a great place that they can go out. They can see what companies are coming to their school. They can also sign up for on-campus interviews if companies are offering that. We are actually in the process of building out our brand page on Handshake, where we're going to share behind the scenes of what it's like to work at Yaskawa. We'll probably post this podcast there as well. We'll have testimonials. So it'll be a really great resource where students can learn more about Yaskawa specifically in our internship program.
Sounds like a great way to learn about a company to see if you want to take that next step with them. So it sounds like we obviously put effort into Handshake and we actually go on campuses to talk to students. What do we do to really attract those strongest intern candidates?
So we have built partnerships with colleges where we've been going to for 10 plus years. So they are very aware of Yaskawa and Yaskawa's internship program, and they promote us on campus. We have a lot of students that are coming to the career fair specifically to speak to Yaskawa. So they have identified Yaskawa is going to be there. They know that we are an employer that they want to speak to. They've done their research beforehand. So usually when we set up at a career fair, we have a line before the fair begins of students waiting to speak to us.
Great. I've talked about on many podcasts how Yaskawa is a company that likes long-term partnerships,
yes.
And it sounds like that's no different with the...
Right. We will sponsor Yaskawa at the career fair, so we will be on banners. At some fairs, we're actually on, if it's at a stadium, we're on the big screens. As you walk in, you can see Yaskawa's here. We're usually one row in, if not the first row, when you walk into a career fair. So we do try to put ourselves at the front. Because obviously with Yaskawa starting with the Y, if we're alphabetical, we would be at the end. So anything we can do to kind of put ourselves at the forefront when students walk in, they see us, we do that. We will also host information sessions before the career fair at certain universities where we will go on campus the day before or the night before and host like an hour to hour and a half informal conversation with students where they're able to sign up and come see us, and we'll have a presentation on this is Yaskawa, this is who we are, a very basic this is a drive, this is motion control if they're not familiar with Yaskawa, and then we'll feed them because food is huge, right?
Number one in college, a free meal means I'm there, right?
Right. So we'll do that, and usually we have a pretty good turnout, and those are promoted within the classrooms. So we will have them promote our information sessions at EE classes, ME classes, where we're trying to draw from those disciplines.
Fantastic. As someone whose last name starts with a W, I'm very familiar with the last in line thing.
Right.
And now with my own children, I feel their pain. Although often what teachers do is flip back and forth. So you're either first or last, first or last. So we have these great partnerships with the different schools and colleges. How do we actually decide which schools we want to partner with for these long-term commitments?
So you mentioned that Yaskawa focuses on longevity. So that is important to us. And so we understand that not everyone wants to relocate or they want to stay in the Midwest. So we do focus on Midwest schools. We're lucky that the area that we're in, we have several great engineering schools in our backyard, basically. So we have gone many years in a row to University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, to UW-Madison, to Marquette, to Milwaukee School of Engineering. So we do try to focus on the Midwest, but we have gone to West Coast schools as well and East Coast schools. And along with Missouri Science and Technology, that has been a school that we've been able to find a lot of co-ops from specifically.
Oh, very cool. Can you tell me how Yaskawa's internship program is structured?
Sure. So we typically place an intern per department. There are some departments that will have more than one intern, and if they have multidiscipline. So if you have a department such as drives product development, you may have an electrical engineering intern as well as a mechanical engineering intern in that specific department. But others that are more singular focused, they'll have one intern. And then they have projects or a longer project that they're working on through their time with Yaskawa. We are able to have two different terms of interns. So the typical intern is a 10 to 12 week program during the summer, but our managers are very fond of co-ops. And co-ops is actually when a student takes a semester off of school. So they would do a semester plus the summer, and they're with us for 6 months. And so we have a lot of managers that prefer the co-ops because they're able to give them more in-depth projects that take up more time. If someone's only here for 10 to 12 weeks, it's not a whole bunch of time.
By the time you get through onboarding, there's not much time left. So for either an intern or a co-op, though, what kinds of projects or responsibilities could they expect?
That's a hard question to answer because it all depends on what the business has a need for at the time. One of the things that we say to interns is that we are not creating busy work for them. We are not creating quote unquote intern projects. The projects that they're working on is something that the company actually has a need for. So it is something that we are going to continue to use after the fact, after they leave. It's not a project that all interns are working on together just for the sake of having interns, right? It is something that we're going to have. So we do ask for our managers to identify some projects when they request an intern, just so we can make sure that they're not going to have them, as you mentioned, fetching coffee or filing paper. But they oftentimes do change by the time the interns start. But to give you an example of some things, we have had interns work on creating demos before. So demos that are then taken to conventions or to career fairs just to showcase what can these drives and motors do in a cool way. Something that would speak to someone walking by our booth.
Yep. Yeah, we might have a new product out, and it's how do we hook that up to something to make it move and all the proper controls to demonstrate the functionality, the capabilities, and things like that. Very nice. When an intern comes on, what do they get as far as leadership? So how do they get matched with a team and even more specifically a mentor?
What we do for the mentors is that we do ask our managers to identify who are those in their department that are interested in leadership, or perhaps we see them as high potential. So someone that we want to encourage to grow their leadership skills as well. And that's typically how we identify the mentor within the department. Now, how we match the student to the department, we look at a couple of things. We do look at the degree program that they're studying to make sure it aligns with the department. We also take into consideration their interests, and also if they've had previous experience that would work well with that department.
Okay. Then that could be a previous internship with Yaskawa or with a different company.
Sure. Or it could be even just a project that they worked on during coursework. Or we also have a lot of interns that really enjoy just tinkering, on their own time. And so we try to look at all of that and see what would be a good place for them. The really nice thing, though, is that our managers, they're really able to develop even an intern that has had no experience before. So we don't want interns to feel that if this is their first time internship, that they're not going to be seen as highly as those that have had internships in the past.
Yep, that they have equal value and can contribute as well. And I never thought of the reverse side of the mentorship. I've had mentors early in my career that were phenomenal, but I never thought about it as actually career development for the mentor as well. A mentor that may aspire to get into a management position.
Sure.
And here's their chance to learn what it means to be a leader under the tutelage of their own manager. Obviously, we're a technical company, and I would imagine a lot of our interns are in engineering. But do we have other opportunities in business, marketing, IT, operations, or anywhere else?
Yes, so you are correct. The majority of our internships are in the engineering departments, but we also hire interns for finance, for IT, for HR, for customer satisfaction, more on the business side. Operations also will have quite a few in the supply chain areas. So supply chain planning, demand planning, as well as strategic sourcing. So they end up with about 5 of their own.
Yeah, that's a big deal for a manufacturer, especially as we've gone through the pandemic and then tariffs. And when you think about all the parts that need to go into a product, there's a whole department of people that work on making sure we have exactly what we need, not too much, not too little. As a company, we like to keep a lot of inventory, and so that's a great place to land. You're going to learn a lot in that department. What kinds of things do we hear from the students about what they hope to learn or maybe what they have learned during their internships?
We hear from students that they really want to walk away with some hands-on skills. One of the things that I've heard from students all over the business is that they have walked away learning some SAP skills, which is huge. So they've heard about ERP systems, but really being able to use that and then put that on their resume, that's been a great thing for them. The other thing that I hear that they learn quite a bit is more on the soft skills. So how to communicate on a professional level via email, via in person, picking up the phone, which can be daunting for a lot of younger individuals, as well as some presentation skills.
Are interns required to do a presentation, like an end-of-term presentation?
We do ask that they do an end-of-term presentation. Right now, it varies a little bit by department, but one of the things I can share with you is that our location in Franklin, Wisconsin, what they do is regardless of business unit. So whether you're an engineering intern at that location or you're an operations intern, at the end of the summer, all the interns, their managers, their mentors, HR gets together, and each intern presents on what their project was or projects that they were assigned to, what they were able to complete, what they learned from that project, and what they liked the most about the internship at Yaskawa, and what they would suggest for improvement for the internship as well. So that gives them an opportunity to present in a safe space to their peers as well as managers at that location.
That's cool. I remember having to do that at some of my first internships, and Well, it was a little daunting at first. I loved the experience to get to show what I worked on. And because I had meaningful work as well, it was actually kind of fun. I don't want to call it bragging, but you got to talk about what you actually did.
Right. We do encourage the interns to do that because it helps build their portfolio. So next summer, when they're looking for an internship, they can speak to the examples that they worked on at Yaskawa. Obviously, we hope that they return to us. But if not, we want to make sure that they're able to use what they learned at Yaskawa to benefit their career.
And for me, it helped because eventually I ended up in a sales role. And in that case, I was giving presentations on a daily basis. So maybe that helped set the foundation for me. At the end of an internship, you've gotten feedback from interns, but how do we actually gather that feedback about their experience? And how do we use that data to improve the program?
2 different ways. We do conduct an exit interview with each intern. A member of HR will meet with them prior to their last day, and we obviously have to go over some general end of internship information, but we do ask them about their experience. We also send them a survey. And so the survey is a confidential way that they're able to provide feedback on the internship. So we do ask, how was their onboarding experience? Was the position what they expected? What did they like the most about the position? What did they wish they had known coming in that would have helped them? What they can offer for suggestions to improve the program for upcoming years. And we do take their feedback seriously. Yaskawa is all about continuous improvement from our products to our internship program. And so there are a few pieces of information that we have used to improve the program. One of the things that we heard is that the interns wanted more feedback. And so they are giving informal feedback throughout their internship, but they wanted more formalized feedback throughout the summer instead of just an end of summer review. So what we put in place last year is we did a midsummer review as well. And so that was based off of the feedback that we had gotten from the interns. One of the other things that we have heard is we will do networking events throughout the summer where we get the whole Midwest internship group together. But they wanted to do more location-specific things as well, just with their cohort of interns there. So HR was actually lucky enough to have an intern last summer, and that was one of the projects that they worked on, doing some more informal get-togethers with each location's interns, allowing them a chance to get to know each other, as well as just have fun and network with others that are their age and talk about their internship. Because as I mentioned, they're typically not working together. They're working within their department with our other professional associates.
Yep. And even when you talk about recruiting locally, and you may not be close to home. I interned up in Neenah, Wisconsin, which was, an hour and a half or so from home for me. And it was a big company, a big campus. There were 30, 40 plus interns, but again, all spread out. You may not work with one on a day-to-day basis, but it was fantastic to have a way to connect with them, to be like, hey, who wants to go play softball tonight or go to this concert this weekend? And you kind of start to form friends. And I was very grateful for that. If you're only there 10 weeks and it takes you 6 weeks to finally find somebody, your term's practically done at that point in time.
One of the things I found very interesting is we do have a high number that come from, for example, Madison, UW-Madison. Mm-hmm. And I would have assumed that they would know each other. Engineering students at the same school, but they often are getting to know people that they had not met before. And they walk away with that connection. And it's someone that back at school that they're able to get together with again or speak to. And I think it's a really nice way that they're able to have that touch point.
Yeah, Madison, I think I saw hit 50,000 students this year. Right. So it's not always the case. I actually work with a couple of other double-E's here that I went to school with that I maybe knew of them in school, but I didn't know them personally. So that is really cool to make those connections and then have that friend back on campus. Speaking of that, would you be able to share an example of a former intern who has grown into a significant role?
Yes, we had an intern that joined us in supply chain, and they interned for us for a summer, and then following graduation, they joined us full time. They were able to progress within supply chain to the manager of supply chain planning. And now they have pivoted to a role focusing more on the project side of supply chain, so working more on the business processes behind the scenes.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to guess you picked probably one of a dozen different people you could have talked about,
yes,
because we have them all over the place.
We have so many great examples of interns that have returned summer after summer and then full time, and they have really, in a way, grown up here at Yaskawa. There are some interns that I can remember giving them a call, to making them an offer, to then down the line helping them process life events for marriage, for adding children. So it's really interesting to see that throughout my time here. And now I'm aging myself, but that's one of the parts that I enjoy the most about the internship program, is really being able to see someone grow and develop both professionally, but personally as well.
And if we didn't mention it, Nancy is in HR, which is why she does deal with these types of events. And you can tell, obviously, she's very passionate about what she does. Having dealt with so many interns and seeing some become so successful, are there any particular traits that tend to predict long-term success here at Yaskawa?
I would say passion is very important. So being passionate about what they do, as well as having a high level of initiative. One of the things that I always encourage interns on their first day is don't be shy. Ask questions. You're here to learn. We're here to teach you. All of our associates want to help pass along their knowledge. So don't be shy. Ask questions. If you finish your project, or if you're at a standstill for whatever reason, ask for something else to do. And that's something that I think at all levels has shown to be successful.
So if we go back a couple steps and a student's really interested in applying, what advice would you give them to help them stand out?
One of the things that I always like to see on a resume is, what are that individual's hobbies? So obviously, yes, we're looking at the coursework, we're looking at projects, but we also want to get an idea of who that person is beyond education. So there are often times where there'll be a hobby that stands out, and so you'll start to ask a question, and next thing you know, you've spent 25 minutes speaking with this intern when you have a line of people waiting for you. So I think that there has been a move to try to depersonalize your resume. And obviously, yes, within reason, but don't shy away from listing a hobby, even if it's not directly related to the position that you're applying for.
Yeah, I think there's some scare with AI, right? And people thinking companies are just going to use AI to screen everything, and that there is no personal level anymore.
And there's a lot that you can tell from a person's hobby. So if you have someone that, for example, was the captain of a sports team, that tells you that that person has leadership. So they're still giving you information that can be used in a workplace setting, but also in a more personalized way.
If they like to build 10,000-piece Lego sets, right? They're tinkerers and they like to use their hands. And to flip that back to the trait you said to be successful was passion. Hobbies are something you don't have to do like coursework. So typically a hobby is something you are passionate about. So to your point, it gives you a little insight into that person and what makes them tick a little bit and what they really enjoy. And of course, ultimately, we want people to enjoy working here. Most companies, I think, do, because then people give their best work and it helps with longevity and career advancement and everything. So it's a really cool thing to look at to help figure out how we can best be a fit, both the employee and the company. So aside from that, when a student does apply, is there anything they need to know about the process?
We try to make the process as painless as possible. So we do have an application that they have to complete, and that is something that we have via QR code typically at our booth, so they're able to apply there on the spot. Or if they're on Handshake, they're actually able to apply before the career fair. But we do ask everyone that's interested to apply for the internship, and then what we'll do is we will review all applicants, and then we will select those that we want to phone screen. Typically that happens in the fall. So the process is do a little bit of research before going to the career fair. Take a look at what companies are coming on site to your campus, and then identify 5 to 10 that you want to visit and do your research on those companies. And when you speak to a representative, you should be able to tell them why you're interested in working for them. There's a lot of students that come up and they haven't done the research, and that's fine too, because we found many students that way as well. But it's always nice when you have someone that comes up, they know who Yaskawa is, they know what Yaskawa does, and then they're able to speak to why they would like to work for Yaskawa. So doing a little bit of research ahead of time is a great thing to do. Don't be nervous. We have a lot of students that come up and it's nerve-wracking. I understand, but we're humans. We're there to speak to them. No one is there to...
No one's there to shame you.
Yeah, no one's going to judge
put you down. Oh, you only got a B+ in that course.
Right. So it's very informal. Obviously, we're looking for the talent. So we want to speak to them. So don't be nervous and just come up to us, ask questions. But some research beforehand is definitely key.
That's good to know. So it sounds like there's a lot of core traits that go back to when I interned 20 plus years ago. Is there anything coming in the future? I kind of mentioned AI. You're starting to see that in the job place, but are there any new trends in intern and co-op programs?
One of the things that we've heard, and it's definitely something that's on a roadmap for some time down the line, but really being able to have like a rotational program for an intern where they're not necessarily being placed like in one department. We do hear from interns that they would like to have like a feel for all the different areas in the company. And that's not something that we've really been able to do, but we do hear that quite a bit. Along with one of the other trends that I've heard about and we've actually experienced here at Yaskawa is staying on part-time post the internship. So we have many students that at the end of August, obviously they go back to full-time students, but they are able to work part-time for us a couple hours a week remotely working on a project that isn't super time sensitive. So that is something that's happening more throughout the years.
That's a really cool idea, especially with the ability to work remote being different. That is one thing that was different than when I interned. And when I went back to campus, I worked at an IT desk or whatever, but it would have been really cool to be putting a couple hours in remotely back with my company.
And one of the great things is since we do recruit locally, there are times like during holiday breaks where those students are able then to come and work on site as well for a little bit more full time, maybe during like the winter holidays.
That's cool to see the way that internships are going and to look back at what's historically worked well as what current technology is able to bring in the future. I really appreciate having you here and all of your insight on this today.
Thanks, Greg. It was my pleasure. I'm a big fan of VFD Vibes. I always recommend it to our interns, so I will definitely recommend this one.
Fantastic. And no, I did not pay her to say that. As we wrap up, one thing is clear. A great internship program is not about temporary help. It's about long-term investment. For students, it's a chance to apply what they have learned, build confidence, and see what a career can really look like. For companies, it's an opportunity to develop talent early, learn from fresh perspectives, and strengthen the future of the organization. At Yaskawa, the intern program is more than a summer experience. It's a launch point. Many of today's engineers, leaders, and decision makers started right here as interns. If you're a student listening, take the leap and apply. If you're an educator or parent, encourage that first step. And if you're a part of an organization thinking about your own talent pipeline, there is real value in building it from the ground up. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like or follow this podcast to stay informed of when new episodes launch. And if we're doing a great job, please leave us a 5-star review. Thank you for joining us, and as always, we'll see you next time on VFD Vibes.